When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to some blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, their profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Reddick, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We're going to be a little more serious on this particular episode because we're going to be bringing back some folks involved with Doors of Change, which is home based out of San Diego, California. And they support as well as some outreach organizations in other cities, including Los Angeles, Chicago, Buffalo, DC, and many more outlets. They support the homeless youth that ranges from anywhere from 12 to late teens and early 20s, which is a big deal because they try to help people beat the odds and not have to deal with surviving a life of physical abuse and dealing with severe depression, among other things, on the streets. But before I get into all the specifics and details and what they actually do for the transitional age youth, which are called TAYs, let's go ahead and welcome the founder, Jeffrey, Sitcov, and Justine, who was helped with the being homeless, and they helped her with her rocky story. And now she has graduated law school. She has her own jewelry business. And, they helped her turn things around. So let's go ahead and say hello to these fine folks. So, as mentioned, we have Jeffrey Sitcov and Justine Y from Doors of Change. How are we doing this morning, folks?
Doing great. We appreciate you having us on.
Right on.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having us.
Of course. And I've talked to Jeffrey before, which was great. But let me give a few stats, because we know everything online is true. So let me give some of these stats and correct me if I'm wrong. You guys are the home base in San Diego, but you have supporting outreach in cities like LA, Chicago, Buffalo, DC. You have at least, let's see, you focus on a lot of TAYs, which is transitional age youth, from 17 to 25, which
24.
is probably okay. See, that's why I like to have people correct it. But this particular population is probably the most underserved. 90% of this population comes from very dysfunctional homes. 40% of it is part of the LGBTQ description, I guess you would say. So they focus on a good area that might be underserved. Am I missing anything here?
Not at all. You're absolutely right. There's 4.2 million homeless youth in America today. They're everywhere. And the reason that they're homeless, they don't want to be homeless, but the house is so abusive. Their parents are mentally ill, drug addicts, alcoholics. It's safer for these youth to be on the street sometimes than to be in their house. And that's about 60% nationally of the youth. And the 40%, as you mentioned, are LGBTQ kids. That's growing now. We actually have 50% of our caseload are LGBTQ kids.
And luckily for us this morning, on the positive side, we have one of your success stories. And
yes,
she would be a Rocky type story in Justine. And what can say about her and what I've learned is, let's see, she was homeless between 12 and 16, but she had beat the odds of surviving a physical abuse and dealing with severe depression. But now she has actually graduated with a law degree from Santa Barbara. So mazel tov to that. So Justine, if you can, please, can you maybe talk a little bit of your backstory there, from where you were to where you are now?
Sure. So, I did have kind of a rough childhood before I was 12. My biological father, unfortunately, was a drug dealer, and my mom didn't know because she was the breadwinner. So she was at work, and he was supposed to be the stay-at-home dad, but he was actually conducting deals while I was a baby in the house. So she divorced him, and her mental health never really recovered. So, because of that, she became a severe alcoholic. And growing up, I didn't really understand why my mommy would pass out. And I had to wake her up frequently because she would be sleeping in weird positions. So that was really difficult. When she remarried, I thought things were going to get better for me, but they didn't. My stepfather became extremely abusive towards me. And, my mother was alcoholic, but she wasn't physically abusing me. And he started doing that. And because of her alcoholism, she didn't really know what was going on. So I decided to leave because I didn't want to stay and continue to be abused and end up being an adult that had lived that kind of life and end up like my mother. So I felt like it was better for me when I was 12 to hit the streets. And it was also very difficult. I faced a lot of challenges. I got into a lot of bad situations. And I eventually, had to sleep outside in park benches, in a tent, a sleeping bag if I had it. And it was very difficult to find food. It was very difficult to navigate day-to-day life. I still did manage to continue to go to school. Unlike a lot of youth that end up on the streets, I still made school a priority, and that was one of the things that kept me sane. And eventually I did get picked up by an officer, and he took me to a homeless shelter for teenagers. That's where I met Jeffrey, and I became more involved with Doors of Change. They had services there. So I had access to mental health services, expressive art therapy, music therapy, things that were helping me on my healing journey. And I became more self-sufficient. After that, I got a job while I was in the shelter, and I finished high school and got a diploma, not just a GED. So I really, truly finished everything. And then I eventually started a business. I put myself through college with my jewelry business, and then eventually made it to law school, and I graduated. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with a rare cancer, so I have not continued my legal career journey. I hopefully will be taking the bar soon once my oncologist says I'm in the clear and I don't need surgery. So, and this year I was recently promoted to a board of directors, so I'm here to make a bigger change so that more kids don't have to go through what I went through.
Well, obviously, we glossed through a lot there. Do you mind if I ask a couple questions on it?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, first off, best of luck with the cancer diagnosis and such. I've been down that road. I know that all too well, sadly. But it's great you made school a priority. But I would think, and I don't think many people would think about this as well, as far as that time period that you were on your own, essentially, from 12 to 14, or excuse me, 12 to 16, give or take, whatever it may be, that there are so many changes in a kid's life at that point. You're trying to figure out who you are. There's puberty. There's this. There's just so much going on in one's life at that time period. So it's nice to hear school kept you sane somewhat. But how did you try to navigate different life changes on top of, you know, dealing with, okay, I need to find food. I might need a place to stay. I need, just all the things you discussed.
I mean, it took a back seat. I wasn't really paying much attention to, like, puberty and my body changes because I was in a day-to-day struggle. This was every day was a new day that I had to find food. I had to figure out if I was going to sleep somewhere, what was going to happen to me. So as far as like being a normal teenager, I didn't really have that. I was in fight or flight the whole time.
And, it's, I think I heard this in another conversation because I like to do a little, deep dive. So I have somewhat of an idea what I'm talking about, which could be scary. But, when you connected with that shelter, you were like 90 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, I was severely malnourished. I'm already a very petite person, but I was so skinny by the time I got into the shelter because I wasn't eating regular meals. I didn't have access to food. And the food that I did have access to was very low quality because I was eating a lot of fast food, and that doesn't contain the nutrition that you need as a growing teenager to, let your body go through those processes. So it affected my health in a few different ways too as a woman. But yeah, I was so skinny when I got taken in. I gained quite a bit of weight having a couple of regular dinners after that, and having regular meals on a daily basis. I became a normal weight.
Yeah, set your body to a normal, everything for whatnot. Jeffrey, do you remember meeting Justine? Justine,
Uh,
excuse me.
I remember it like yesterday. You know
Okay.
why? Because she was the only youth in 24 years that didn't look at me in the eye for 2 months. She looked at the ground. She was all black, wore black. Everything was black. And she did not look at me in the eye for 2 months. And that never happened to me before. So I remember very clearly. And but then eventually when she looked at me, she said, I want to learn how to play music. And that was the beginning of her really helping, because she went from music and then she said, well, how about, can I do expressive arts? And that's where she thrived. And to see her learn how to make jewelry from our program, and actually the instructor Nikita said, you can make a living doing this. And sure enough, she did it for almost 20 years. It's amazing. It put her through school, and we're so proud of her, how much she's grown over the years.
Now, obviously, I know folks have been of all walks of life as we discussed it. maybe come through the program or might need help. But I also read, which is scary, my folks wanted me to read and write, as bastards. I say that tongue in cheek, folks, don't go sending hate mail. But no, you have a lot of other success stories as well, Jeffrey. You know,
Oh
people
yeah.
became doctors and lawyers and business people and, different walks of life. So, besides the music and different things that she had mentioned in the program, what do you guys do for folks if they want to continue their education like Justine did?
That's a great question. Actually, there's there's no what do you call it? It's perfect that you asked this question because this week actually we signed an agreement with Urban League, working with the San Diego Foundation, a 4-year contract to go into the schools to get kids into trade schools and into college. So we're actually going to be getting kids that we work with and actually getting them into these programs so they can get trades, learn a trade and make money or go to college. We never really had that opportunity up until now. That was the last missing piece we really had in our program. But now it's come to full fruition. We've already started. We've already referred a couple kids to the program already. So that's a fantastic opportunity for us to go through the schools. Any homeless or kids that are couch surfing, living in their cars, we can help them and get them into college, get them into trade schools especially, so they can learn a trade and be able to make money immediately.
Right on. Justine, you mentioned about being directed to a shelter. And during that story, I heard you might have been taken to, or might have been accused of, let's say, I don't know how to word this right, of possible arrest or possibility of being arrested. But the officer looked at, let's go this direction, would you, as far as put you in a shelter? You met Jeffrey, everything goes a different direction for you. What was it that did the cop ever say anything to you as like, I think you were involved in this, or I don't, or what happened there?
Yeah, so he did know it was me. I matched the description. The problem was is they were looking for my alias. They didn't know what my real name was. So because the identification that I had a different name, that gave him a little bit more flexibility in what he decided he wanted to do with me, even though he knew I matched the description. And I admitted to him that yes, it is me, but he saw the situation that I was in and the difficulty that I was going through, and he decided that he didn't want to ruin my life because, being 16 and then ending up in juvenile hall, it's going to be hard going into adulthood to overcome some of those difficulties as well, to be an incarcerated teenager. um I was involved in a crime and I didn't want to be, and it was because of the people that I was involved in. So after I got into the shelter, they did send detectives to come speak to me, and basically I was never charged with anything, and I gave them all the information that they needed to arrest the person that was actually responsible.
Now, with all that being said, and obviously there's some time being taken here to get readjusted, to trust people like Jeffrey and getting, your feet wet, going in a different direction. Not try to say English. Going in a positive, different direction than where you were. So, what made you say, hey, you know what? I want to go to college. I want to go to law school. What took you down the road? Obviously, you did the jewelry stuff, as both of you mentioned. What led you down the path that you took?
Well, I always had a love for learning. I was very much a book nerd growing up. I was a highly educated child. I could read and write when I was 3 years old. And that was because of my mom. And she also left me at my grandmother's house a lot. And my grandmother was also very nerdy. And I would actually read encyclopedias like they were books at her house, and I would memorize information. And I was just so into learning that I became a career student. I actually ended up earning 5 degrees, including my law degree, because I loved it and I was getting good grades. So I was getting scholarships and it wasn't costing me that much out of pocket compared to, a lot of students going into school having to spend a lot of money. I got a lot of assistance and I qualified for a lot of grants. So I love learning. I wish that I could enroll in school again, but at this point, it doesn't make any sense because I've already got a Juris Doctorate.
What is that exactly, the doctorate?
A Juris Doctorate's a law degree that you need to take the bar.
Okay. Yeah, I just never heard it in that phrase, so thank you. Jeffrey, how do we work on financing for the organization, and where would you say a lot of the funding comes from? Because I also know there's a lot of celebrity endorsements as well. So how do we fundraise for Doors of Change?
The biggest one is through people in the community that when they hear about what we've done and they see the success stories at one of our concerts, and they see interviews of us on TV, and they say, you know something, I got to help you. So a large percentage of money comes from people just like that might be listening here that are touched about what they hear, and they say, I want to help. And even though we're in San Diego, kids from all over the United States, Philadelphia, Detroit, Buffalo, they don't live outside in the winter. They come to San Diego. So we've got kids from all over the country that live in San Diego. And so we really appreciate your support because we need constant monthly income coming in for our case managers, program directors, everything. And we're so busy right now. It's really, we really appreciate people's support. And again, there's so many nonprofits. Who do you trust? Well, thank God the music industry trusted me. Billy Joel and Elton John were the first two that trusted me, and they signed memorabilia for us. And then when they came and said, yes, this is a good organization, then Bruce Springsteen, the Rolling Stones, and many, many others have helped us by signing memorabilia. So that's another way we raise money is through memorabilia, through grants, and so those are the three main ways we raise money. And one other thing, our angel team. So we trademarked the name Angel Team from the California Angels. They gave us permission. We're the only ones they ever gave permission to use Angel Team. And so we use it that for an $18 a month donation, auto pay, every month, you'll be an Angel Team member. You can get some stuff for that. There's a couple signed photos of some, legendary musicians. But the most important thing is $18 a month minimum. You can do more if you like. It'll be enough money coming in from many, many people doing it that it's going to help us on a monthly basis. And that's what we need. Doorsofchange.org. Doorsofchange.org. Go to the website and you can look at the videos, see the kids on there. If you're touched, please take action, because if you don't take action, if you're touched by this, it's not going to help any of these youth, and we need to help more youth.
Well, obviously, it was mentioned that Justine is now part of the board of directors. How many would you say of folks you've helped along the way have also joined those ranks as well in terms of giving back?
Justine is the first ever in 24 years ex-homeless youth, former homeless youth that's now a board member. And she's a tremendous board member. She's already raised $5,000 last month speaking at a Kiwanis meeting. So, it's just she touches people deeply, and we're so blessed to have her on our team.
Justine, how's it been for you being a member of the board and doing things like that and trying to give back to folks who've helped you along the way?
It's been really enlightening being on the other side because I've always been on the receiving end, and I have spoke with Doors of Change for many years, 18 years. I've been giving speeches, but I'd never been on the other end where I actually had that power to become deeper involved in the organization, to do fundraising, to do more speeches. So it's been incredible seeing that, because as a youth, you don't really understand how these services come to be, where this money comes from. And I'm networking with the community, meeting so many incredible people that have such compassion and such love. And it's really been powerful being able to be part of the fundraising, to be part of the changes and the decisions being made, because those decisions impacted me personally at one time. So I understand how our services impact the kids, I think, more than a lot of people do that haven't been on the receiving end.
Do you find more of these young kids, teenagers, even young adults might trust you more because you were on that other side?
I think so. I think that there's a mutual understanding. And sometimes when you have been through that kind of lifestyle, some of the reasons why it's hard to trust adults is they don't know what you've been through, right? And especially as a teenager, there's that rebellious aspect of like, I don't know who you are and you don't know what I've been through, and, trying to push them away. And I think that I do have that connection point of, look, I was just like you. I was little girl on the streets and I've been through it all and I'm here now and you can do it too, because if I could do it, then any of these youth that are motivated enough, they can also, go to school, they can go to college, they can graduate, they can get degrees, they can work for a nonprofit like Doors of Change. There's nothing that's stopping them. They just have to believe in themselves.
And I would think that is helpful in that way, that you could say, I dealt with A, B, and C, and have that personal experience and tell your story or specific parts of the story and say, hey, look, I know, and this is why. But what is next for Doors of Change? What do you see going on the rest of the year, guys?
Well, we are committing now to raise $5 million over the next 5 years in additional money, so we'll have long-term stability of Doors of Change. We have a San Diego Foundation we're going to be partnering with, and instead of people giving annuities or giving endowments, they can give a long-term fund legacy gift to us. It'll be in a long-term fund that if we need to take out the principal, we can take it out at any time. But we'll have enough for the interest once we get the 5 million that we'll be able to keep our business going for many years, hopefully another 24 years. So that's a huge undertaking. We appreciate so much if anybody will make a donation. We truly need all the help we can get so we can keep this going. We've helped now over 2,900 homeless youth get off the streets into housing or shelter. We've helped 23,000 of them get resources. So we've proven ourselves. We have a successful track record that works. We just need funding so we can continue. And I'll tell you, it's getting harder and harder now with all the things being frozen. We've had grants that we're supposed to get, they're frozen. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You got to pay your employees. So it's very difficult. So we appreciate anybody that listens all over the country and all over the world. Please help us so we can help more kids. Doorsofchange.org. Doors is plural.
Justine, Jeffrey, thank you so much for the time.
Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Howdy, folks. Double J, Jeff Jarrett. That's right. That's Jeff, J-A-R-R-E-T-T. That's Double J, Jeff Jarrett. The world's greatest singer, world's greatest entertainer, and the world's greatest wrestler, and now, world's greatest podcaster. And you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.